everyone. You're in the office with Joseph Skoda. Hey, you like my office today? My office is not at the beach or in the mountains or anything like that, but I'm actually in my office, and that doesn't always happen like that. But I'm so proud today of different people I've been able to interview and talk to and get to learn a little bit about them and their stories. And today, not only we have veterans who I like to focus on, we're going to be mentioning, and a former mayor and a radio host and so many other things out there. But I want to introduce you all to Mr. Fred Munroe over here, Navy veteran, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Fred?
Yes, actually, yeah. Was in the Navy back in the early 70s.
In the early 70s. I was still in diapers in the early 70s, Fred.
Yeah, I guess technically when I say that, it just occurred to me, it was the early 70s, as in, like, I believe I was sworn in on like the 6th of January of 70.
How do you remember that day?
Because I graduated high school in May of 69, and I went into the Navy the next winter.
Well, that's not bad. I actually have something similar. When I know when I came in, obviously it was June 14th, 1985, and I graduated high school 5 days prior.
Oh.
So I graduated high school, I already knew I was going to join. And it's funny because I turned down 2 scholarships to join the Air Force. I had a scholarship for wrestling to Ohio State. It wasn't the Ohio State then, it was just Ohio State. And then I had an academic degree to Penn State, which is in Pennsylvania. And I turned them both down to join the Air Force. And you know what? 1 year later, I'm taking college classes. What was I thinking?
It's good that you mentioned that, because actually some of the best classes I took for college were not what I took in college, but what I took as evening classes while I was in the Navy.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what kind of classes did you take, and what did you do?
Actually, I was they were unrelated to what I did in the Navy. I was a photographer's mate in the Navy. I was actually a photography major, fine art photography major in high school, and had always loved photography. My brother was in the Navy, and he was a draftsman, and he got into photography professionally about the time I got into the Navy, and I loved doing it. In the Navy, the photography is an interesting specialty in that it's an aviation specialty. So technically, as a photographer's mate, I was under aviation discipline of a lot of stuff. But I spent most of my time in the Navy on a submarine tender in Guam, photographing precision stuff. On the subtenders were dealing with monitoring and repairing nuclear submarines, because the Navy requires, well, I'm not sure what they require now, but at the time, almost all submarine repairs and refurbishing was done attached to a subtender so they could move in a time of crisis. But I spent most of my Navy photography career photographing machinery and repair things, and small stuff in tight spaces on submarines. It was fascinating work to have.
Wow, that is pretty exciting. Photography under aviation. I was aircraft mechanic when I first started my career.
They would never trust me to be an aircraft mechanic. I can assure you of that.
It's funny. I got my bachelor's in aviation. I got licensed as an aircraft mechanic. And then I decided I don't want to do it no more. So I changed career fields in the
Air Force. I would worry about me for that, because I'm the kind of person that to take something apart to repair it.
Yeah.
And can't figure out where the 2 leftover parts were supposed to go when we're done.
You're supposed to have leftover parts. That's good maintenance.
Spare and leftover are not the same, Joe.
Spare and leftover, totally different. So were you a photographer pretty much the whole time in your Navy career?
Yeah. Most of my time, well, I was in Guam on the USS Proteus for quite a while. Sure. And then when the Proteus came back to Mare Island to be refurbished itself, I got transferred to Point Mugu, which was terrific because Point Mugu had one of the largest photography labs in the Navy. And I was from Van Nuys, so I actually literally commuted from my mom's house for my last year and a half in the Navy. That made it a tough duty station.
Sure, it was probably only a 20-minute drive then. Now it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anyway. But that was rewarding work. I never stayed in photography, and it's just maybe I'm not quite sure why that word evolved the way it did. I went back to college when I got out of the Navy. Stuck with that for a couple of years, but frankly, never finished that. I was a psychology major in college, I have to say, and what I've now learned post college and later in life is if I'd been a journalism major, I probably would have actually got the degree, because that's where a lot of my focus was as far as what I wanted to know and do. Psychology, as much as it interested me, was tough to focus on. And you understand that because you've been there.
I totally understand that. And like I mentioned, I got a bachelor's in aviation. Then I went to get an MBA, which is pretty exciting, a master's of business. And then roughly 8-10 years after that, psychology. Who knows what the next degree is going to be.
Yeah, we all want to know what we're going to do when we grow up. And then I look in the mirror and go, oh, this is not what I thought I was going to look like. Yeah, I'm thoroughly convinced I'm only 40 until I look in the mirror or to look at the Zoom screen. And then it's like, crap, I just turned 70.
Just turned 70. You look good for being 70. Tell us a little bit about the Croatia behind you.
Oh, that's actually the walled city of Dubrovnik. It was a place that my wife and I went on part of a vacation about 4 years ago. And it just, I was looking for interesting backgrounds because we got so wrapped up in Zoom, and I was going through the photographs and I went, wow, I have far more pictures of Croatia than I remember taking. And it's just some great places, an incredible city. And I will say this, we were only there about a day and a half because it was part of a Windstar cruise on a small cruise ship. But some of the most authentic people I have spoken with as I've traveled are in Croatia.
Wow.
We were in Dubrovnik, we were in Split, we were in Rovinj, just people. And I think one of the reasons why, and a lot of our veteran friends will be able to pay attention to this. A lot of the real authentic information that these people share and the vulnerability they share is based upon the fact that they were at war with Montenegro, which is right now. I mean, we took a tour with a fellow who talked about the war between Croatia and Montenegro was 35 miles away. And there he had cousins who were in the other country on the other side. And it was an interesting, telling understanding of when war's not across an ocean or war's not far away, how it really is more personal. And for a lot of us who are veterans, we don't realize, or we should realize, and hopefully we do now, that there are real people in those war zones that never intended to be part of a war. And it's just taken over their lives.
That's pretty scary. I mean, obviously North and South Korea and Vietnam and even Laos right across the border. And we had our own civil war. And some people would argue that we're having another civil war.
Another one, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a scary time. And you're right. That's our brothers, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles. We're all related in one way or another. I mean, we're all made in God's image, if you believe that. And it's just weird how things turn out.
We seem to have trouble sorting out the fact that when all is said and done, generally we find a way to have a peace or armistice with lots of people. I mean, to this day, after World War II, my father fought in, two of our best allies that are honest people for us to deal with are the Japanese and the Germans. And there's some people who are still fighting World War II. I don't know, but it's not about the people often, because when you can get people to people contact one-on-one, we realize we're far, far more alike, regardless of how culturally different we are.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. And I was stationed in the Philippines. I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. I was stationed in even Saudi Arabia. And when you get out of the politics and your rank structure, if you're in the military, just get to know people. I had some really good times, even out there in the desert in Saudi Arabia, sipping tea next to a camel. I had a really good time out
Yeah,
there.
that may be why I picked the Navy, because I didn't want to be in the desert, Joe.
you know in Riyadh happens to be the naval headquarters in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And that's right in the big city. And no water anywhere nearby. Pretty crazy world we live in. So what were some of the challenges when you got out? Did you find work right away? Did you find love right away? Did you travel the world like you expected to do? What challenges
Well,
did you see?
the probably the best thing I did that worked well was deciding to go back to college, even though I don't consider that a successful part of my life and I didn't get a degree. But going back to college and focusing on that, I think became a lot of what I did. I didn't really work that much when I was first going to college. I ended up in the hospitality business by accident in the later 70s. But I look back on it, it wasn't my best time because I wasn't challenged enough to really feel like I enjoyed the competition, if you will, or enjoyed the game. And I think I would have been better then.
No, that's a real good point. Something we don't talk about a lot. We get bored if we're not really challenged to step up or be all that we can be. I used to be, even though I wasn't in the Army, I believe in that, being all that you can be. And we have to challenge ourselves. And when we're not, or even when things come easy, and in today's society, the you owe me mentality for a lot of people, they're missing the boat on working hard to get where you are in life.
Yeah, I don't feel like I need to compete with anybody but myself. Now it so happens I've been an entrepreneur, and most of my adult life, my office has been in my own home. So from that standpoint, I realize I've been my own boss for a good portion of the time, and I've enjoyed those. There's community things and nonprofit and things like that I've been involved in that are larger group events. I've worked with KCBX Public Radio, as you know, and worked as a volunteer for many years with the Live Oak Music Festival. But I guess in some regards, because I always felt I was my own toughest challenge, that may be indeed why I ended up being an entrepreneur that worked pretty much for myself.
That's a big deal. A lot of us leaving the military, well, we have some families to support. We can't even think about being an entrepreneur. We got to find a job right away and pay the bills. But mostly, when you get the entrepreneur mindset, then you realize you're just working a job to work on your passion and earn the money to do what you really want to do in life. That's really exciting. I want to transition just a little bit about, and we met about a month ago because you interviewed me and a couple others on.
Yeah, this is I know this is payback, right?
This is payback. You had me on radio where no one could see our faces. I have you on video, but we were talking Toastmasters.
Yeah, and that was live radio. We weren't editing anything.
Well, that's true. I had fun on that show, and
we had a great time.
The dynamics between the three or four of us, that was outstanding. Now, how does someone at your mature level of life right now still have fun doing what you're doing?
I'm one of those I'll never retire from anything I do kind of people.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Yeah, I can sit back and read a good book and I can watch a good movie, but I've got to have. I guess the two things that get me most hooked into things are people, which I would say is people versus and community, and logistics. I do stuff that involves logistics. I mean, I'm working with Live Oak at the music festival was about logistics. A lot of what I do as a travel advisor for my clients is about logistics. And so that becomes kind of a challenge that never gets solved. There's always something that you can refine. There's always something you can pay attention to. And that's a good way to, and Yeah, Joe, you'll understand this too. I've always been a loudmouth. Even though it's like, well, it's like, I think I'm just contemplative. And my family says, no, you don't understand what contemplative is. You're a loudmouth.
It's funny. There's places out there for people like you and I too that like to talk and have something to share.
Yeah, it's on the other side of the locked door. They show us where the back door is and then lock it behind us.
Behind you. Oh, it's over there. It's over there. Every time I ask, well, where's the bathroom? What's out there by the nearest tree? And they don't let you back in.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing radio broadcasts?
I actually started way back in about 1975 as a volunteer on KPFK in Los Angeles. And I did not do the level of broadcast and commentary I do now. I was generally a volunteer at KPFK during pledge drives, and I got to pitch on air occasionally as a volunteer that was involved in that. Did that for a while, and then I moved to San Luis Obispo County in the late 70s. And did a little bit of volunteer stuff here and there for KCBX for a few years, but didn't do radio. And there's a fellow, a local fellow named Jim Siebert, who used to be on, I can't remember the AM station he used to be on. He's not on radio anymore. He now is a voice for audiobooks. He basically reads audiobooks and does a wonderful job of it. But when I started, I had a limousine service and I did a lot of hospitality work in the travel and hospitality industry. He said, come on and let's talk about different things to do on the Central Coast. So I was kind of a regular guest for him for a while. And that evolved to some extent in doing some things which is now called Central Coast Voices on KCBX. But years ago, it was actually just called Voices. And it's come and gone, was just an effort, kind of the things that we, similar to what we did with you, Joe, and your other colleagues from Toastmasters, which is just sharing community with a larger community. And that's what we've done. And we still do it there. And I love doing that program all the time. It is delightful to have guests that are just rewarding people to talk to about what their experiences are. I never thought that you guys from Toastmasters could be as clever for a whole hour as you were. I always thought, okay, Toastmasters is about doing a 3 to 5 minute presentation, and I'm just going to put three people from Toastmasters on the air for an hour. And I got off the program after that was over and said, God, that was so much fun. I could just talk to these people for another 3 hours because you emphasize it here too. It's about life experience.
Yeah.
And what you do with Toastmasters is just learn and develop ways to better share life experiences so people connect better. And doggone it, we're not doing a good enough job of connecting most of the time.
We don't, in a society that's so technologically advanced. And there's podcasts and videos and YouTube, so many things out there. I personally have a couple hundred videos out there myself, but we often still don't communicate. And you know how it is. We're all looking at our phones and walking down the street, and we don't even have eye contact. It's ridiculous.
I have to confess, I do not like texting on a phone. It's like, please, I'm going to dial the phone and I'm going to talk to you. Let's have a voice conversation. Text messaging and to a lesser extent, email is a serial monologue.
Sure.
It's your monologue, and then your monologue stops, and then somebody picks up the serial on the other side, and they do their monologue. And it doesn't convey human emotion.
It doesn't convey. My girlfriend hates it. I'll text, are you coming over? And she may or may not respond, or I'm busy right now, but that doesn't answer, so stop.
She's trying to train you. She's trying to train you to dial the phone and talk to her.
I know. Well, you don't even dial anymore. You hit a button.
Hit the button, yeah.
Thankfully, contacts are saved in the phone. A couple of weeks ago, I broke my phone, the first time ever. And I dropped the cell phone and cracked the screen, and I couldn't use it. It could ring all day long. I couldn't answer it. The screen was dead. and literally cost me $350 to fix the screen. The phone was, I don't know, $1,100 when I bought it a couple of years ago. Why would I need insurance?
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So $350, and my phone, believe it or not, has $800 trade-in value. But that's a ridiculous amount of money. So almost 5 days I had no phone, and I was starting to get used to it. But you and I know, as we're involved in a lot of things, volunteer-wise or getting paid, we don't have that communication. And then they get mad because you didn't answer the text or the phone call and not realizing why. And so therefore we're stuck on social media, chatting back and forth. And not everyone trusts or likes to do that either.
Yeah, it does give us some interesting mobility. Some of my clients are surprised. I mean, I have a landline at my desk for my business, and we have a landline for our home number still, and I'll keep those for a long time.
Wow.
But one of the best things that surprises some of my clients is they'll call and leave a message on my office phone.
Mm-hmm.
My office phone has a technology that it will immediately, when you get done leaving me a message,
Mm-hmm.
it will call my cell phone and play the voicemail for me.
Nice.
And I've done things like, I was actually at Hearst Castle with a tour a number of years ago, and I called a client back and I said to them, I said, "Hi, how are you doing? I got your message. I can't address this completely right now, but I didn't want you to wait for a call back." And they said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm at Hearst Castle." And they said, "Wait a second, I just called your office in Atascadero. And how come it's like magic of technology?"
Magic of technology.
So it keeps us connected. I have a couple of colleagues in the travel industry that I think they're never in their office. They are traveling constantly. I just have trouble working off of a keyboard on a small computer sometimes. So I still like a desktop computer, but yeah.
It's hard. My laptop goes anywhere I'm going to be gone for at least an hour. I bring my laptop with me. You never know. And more often than not, I'll go somewhere like on any day of the week, actually. And I might spend the night. I might just go to Camarillo for the day, like, let's spend the night or something like that. And it's pretty good. But even though we have voicemail, I am really poor at returning or checking it right away. I have at least 5 voicemails now that I checked like a few days ago and haven't responded back to. Because I have to be in the right mindset. And I realize if you have voicemail, leave a message. It doesn't mean I have to answer the phone right away or even respond right away. But I'm really poor in that. I like to text. I like someone to say, "Please check your voicemail. Please check the email I sent you. Please respond. This is important. I've got a business partner in Vegas. She calls me every other day. I don't answer the phone most of the time unless she texts me, 'Hey, I have some good news.' Then I'm right on the phone. If she says she has bad news, I usually wait a couple days. But when I hear you have good news, I'm on the phone right away. She knows that. And
there's a way to solve the problem of not listening to voicemail.
Yeah.
Because I discovered that on my landline.
Yes.
My landline will continue to beep until I listen to the message.
No.
Okay? And I can tell you the beep is annoying, and keeping it as an annoying beep is helpful. Self-created annoyance that I can only blame on me.
Only blame on you. It's a good thing, especially when we do what we do and we have to be held accountable or be able to get a hold of. But I'm horrible. And the sad thing about my particular phone, I might have a voicemail from an hour ago. I might have a voicemail from a week ago. I don't know the day or time. It doesn't tell me. So I don't really know. Hey, we're going to meet for, and okay, what day was that? It's really confusing sometimes.
Well, this might help you.
Yeah.
And I don't know who your provider is or how your phone works. I happen to have an Android phone.
Me too.
Yeah. When voicemails come in, I don't have to listen to the voicemail. They record as a text message also. Now sometimes there's stuff that's not correct, but but generally you can just read the message without having to listen to a message.
I just reactivated my visual voicemail. I think that's what you're talking about. That's a good thing. It's one of my faux pas, and I'm really bad at that. And I always tell others say, I need people. I need people. When I was in the military, I had people, not necessarily secretaries or anything, but people keep me on the right track, which is important. And when you retire, you kind of have to do it all yourself. If you're an entrepreneur, you definitely have to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And I understand some of those challenges. Well, anyways, hey, Fred, let's take a quick break right here. Let our audience get their coffee, and we'll come back in a couple minutes. So, hey, everyone, stand by. We'll be coming back. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're here with Fred Munroe from San Luis Obispo. All right, or actually Van Nuys. Beautiful. All righty. Hello, everyone. Hey, we're just coming back from our break, and you're in the office with Joseph Skoda, but it's been a real interesting conversation hearing about Fred Munroe and the Navy and submarines and photography and radio and parties and Croatia and travel.
I don't think we mentioned the party. What party?
That was on break there. We're talking about that on break. It's interesting because, like we talked earlier, I was on the radio show that you did, the Voices of the Central Coast, which is a lot of fun, and get to learn a little bit about you. And somewhere in passing, it said, oh, by the way, I was the mayor of Grover City once, or Grover Beach. I don't know what it was at the time. But tell us what got you into politics.
Well, wait. Oh, it's interesting you worded it that way. What got me into politics? I have to back up a little bit. I worked on my first congressional campaign in 1960. Wow. I was 9 years old. I passed out flyers for a guy named Jim Corman running for Congress in Van Nuys in North Hollywood. Now that's just truly happenstance. Wow. I may have done it to aggravate my dad, because my dad and I, even at that age, had some different politics. But I moved to Grover Beach in I think 78, I believe. Yeah. And it's the first small town I'd lived in. I mean, I was from Van Nuys. As an adult, I escaped Van Nuys by moving to Santa Monica. That seemed like moving to a small town. So when I moved to Grover Beach, it was a small community. A lot more people knew each other as far as a percentage of the community. You just got involved in things. And there was something going on. I can't even remember what the topic was. Something at the Planning Commission that I wanted to support. So I went to a Planning Commission meetings in this small town, and presented my point of view about something. And then that got appealed to the city council, and I went to a city council meeting. And one of the city council members one time, after one of those meetings, basically said, you ought to consider being a planning commissioner, because you look at this stuff rather thoroughly. So I became a planning commissioner in Grover Beach, did that for about 2.5 or 3 years, and then ran for city council. Boy, if you want to know what is strange in the world, run for city council in a small California town. It was an interesting experience, but I was on the city council for 8 years. Now, I'm always careful when I say I was also the mayor, because the mayor now in almost all of our cities is a directly elected position. In Grover Beach and a lot of cities at the time, the mayor wasn't directly elected. It was a rotation like it would be on any board of directors. So I was mayor for a year when we used to do it as a rotation for a year. I was mayor in the early 90s. But the thing that I am notoriously most guilty for is being one of the council members that put forward the idea to change the name from Grover City to Grover Beach. Now, I can tell you this problem. I think this happened when my daughter was in about the 3rd grade. Yeah. Because the person that I most heard from about what a terrible idea this was and how did we ever do it was my daughter's 3rd grade teacher. Every time I saw her, it's like, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you did this. But most people were pleased with the decision.
It sounds good now, and those people aren't familiar with the area. We have Pismo Beach and Grover Beach and Oceano, and what are exactly the 5 cities? That's all part of the 5 cities area. And some reason I count 6 or 7. So tell me a little bit about the 5 cities.
It's probably debatable what they are historically, and my history is not real good. Yeah. But I believe Oceano, Halcyon, Arroyo Grande, Grover City, and Pismo Beach are technically the 5 cities.
Halcyon.
Okay.
That's one we don't hear about very often.
And it's not, of course, it's not really a city. It's a little rural community with a name on it. But
it's about 4 blocks.
Yeah. Yep. And I would suspect that if you can find 5 people from the 5 cities, they can all give you a list of 5 cities, and all 5 lists will be slightly different. Because some people will leave Halcyon out and they'll add Napomo. Some people will add Shell Beach, and even though Shell Beach is now technically part of Pismo Beach. So the real answer to your question is
yes.
That was my devising a long answer to a question that the real answer is, Joe, I don't know.
You don't know? I would have never thought of Halcyon as part of that. And I used to live in Arroyo Grande and up on the Mesa and go down there all the time past Halcyon. Yeah. It's literally 6 blocks long and a little grocery store / post office.
Yeah, I don't believe it's a post office anymore. I think they lost their post office.
They lost that, I think, beginning of the year, something like that. It's funny, and we have a lot of little communities. That's what's unique about Central Coast and pretty much all of California. We got these little niches, and we live in a different area where there's microclimates. Paso Robles, which is like, I don't know, 20, 30 miles where you are up north, could be a 20, 30 degree difference in temperature. And down in Orcutt, where I live, it could be a 20, 30 degree colder where you are at the moment. And it's a very interesting place we live in and time we live in right now.
Yeah. So, and I see Orcutt is inland enough that you can even be unpredictable. You can have a coastal day today, or, and like an ocean breeze day, and tomorrow it'll be like the Santa Maria Valley Desert almost.
It could very well be like, and it's a little frustrating. I live close to Vandenberg Space Force Base now. I think the last time we talked, it was still Air Force Base, and now it's Space Force Base, and so proud. My son's serving and stationed there right now, and he's got his own issues being in the military. I got a question. Do you think it's a good idea for someone getting out of the high school to join the military?
I don't think there's a good answer for that, or there's not a bad answer.
Okay.
I think it actually depends on where you are or are not going with your life. I think for me it was a good decision because I went to junior college for a semester after I got out of high school. I did not have good study habits. I have ADD, and I should have realized it wasn't going to go away when I graduated high school. And at the time I was young, and that was long enough ago. They weren't doing a really good job of diagnosing that unless they put you on meds, and I didn't take meds for it. But I wasn't a good focused student. So to some extent, but when I went in the Navy, immediately on going in the Navy, and I was able to work this out before I enlisted, was they sent me to what's referred to as A school.
Sure.
For, if you will, beginning technical school in any field. They sent me to A school for photography. And because that was not academic work, it was more hands-on work. It was a very, very good experience because I didn't do well doing academic work in my first semester of college, but I did very well in Navy photography school in Pensacola, Florida. That's really a personal decision that has more to do with where you are in life. I would give you this. I think that I wish we were a culture that would give people, regardless of whether they go in the military or want to go on to college, at least a year after high school, that they're not in a classroom. Because I do think that we have people who don't make good long-term decisions based upon feeling that all they're doing is transferring from one school environment to another school environment with no life experience in there.
That's a good point.
And that was probably a very convoluted answer that really didn't answer your question.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Pensacola, Florida, and I know that area really well, and I spent a lot of time at Herbert Field, probably about 30, 40 minutes away in the Air Force doing a lot of my different training. Did you choose? Were you able to choose to be a photographer? How did that work?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I was in a program called the Sea Cadets when I was in high school,
Okay.
which is run by the Navy League. It's actually kind of like a scouting program, but it was literally run by the Navy. It was actually run mostly by retired chief petty officers. Seemed to run that entire program nationally. But because I was in that training program as a high school student, I got the ability to pretty much go in the Navy knowing what my specialty could be, because the Navy considered me to have sort of a head start on the training curve for them. So it was, yeah. So actually, by the time I went in the Navy, I knew that I would be able to go to photography school.
Well, that's pretty good.
But that was an unusual situation.
I was in the Civil Air Patrol, our Air Force version of your Sea Cadets. And I don't know why I wanted to work on planes. I just love planes. My uncle used to work on planes in the Air Force many, many moons ago. And I just fell in love with them. And I enjoyed it. And I think we talked during break. I enjoyed it so much. I don't want to do it no more because I would smell like hydraulic fluid and oils and fuel, and my uniforms were all ripped up, and I got tired of it. Then I got into surveillance and command and control. And years later, I mean, right now, 30 years later, I wish I was working on planes again. It's just a sense of accomplishment. When you see something fly that you had something to do with, it's kind of a big deal. But regardless of what we did in the military, it's all important. It's all important. But what bugged me is every time someone found out I was in the Air Force, what's the number one question they're going to ask me? Oh, are you a pilot? That drove me nuts. That still drives me nuts today. No, I'm not a pilot. Even though I've been up in the cockpit a few times, I'm not a pilot. But it's funny how people have a misconception just by saying what we're involved with. Let's just say you're involved with NASA. I don't think you're in that astronaut program or something. And if you're in radio or TV, they think you're always up front. That's not always the case. What do you like most about what you're doing today?
I am primarily today a travel advisor.
Okay.
I evolved out of having a transportation company. I started the first limousine service in San Luis County back in the early 80s. I evolved out of that to doing more of travel agency kind of work. And I love it because I am dealing predominantly with people's positive experiences, and I'm dealing with how they see society and people. But earlier in the program, I mentioned that logistics have gotten me involved in a lot of things. So I basically get to do human logistics. And my wife will tell you, because people have said to her, when's Fred going to retire? And the answer is he's never going to retire. He loves what he does. And there are times it's frustrating. I've fired a few clients, and I've lost a few because I haven't done things exactly the way they wanted. But I love the fact that 90% of what I do is creating a positive experience for people. Even if I'm dealing with travel for someone who's traveling on an emergency, family crisis, medical emergency, something like that, I'm doing something to streamline the process of them solving the logistical part of their problem so they can get on with the personal part of it. Instead of sitting in front of a computer trying to figure out how to get to Hoboken, they're calling up Fred and saying, I need to get to this address. Get me there on the shortest air route you can. And please don't put me on a flight before 8 o'clock in the morning. And then they let go of it, and it becomes a logistical experience. I love what I do.
That's so important. And we hear that a lot. If you're doing what you enjoy doing, it's really not a job. It's the lifestyle. It's a lifestyle in a way. And I've been very fortunate with most of the decisions I made in life, not everything. Is there anything you wish that maybe you done differently? in your life?
I think I mentioned it earlier, and I'll mention it again. And that is, as I've looked at what I've done in later life and as things have evolved, I wish I realized that what I really wanted to be was a journalist. And if I had gone to college in the early 70s or after I got out of the Navy with journalism instead of psychology, it probably would have refined things a lot differently for me. That would probably be the biggest decision. And that's one of the reasons why I mentioned what I think we need to do more as a society, which is give kids a break between high school and college so they can experience some real life things. It may be traveling for a year. It may be working at their uncle's, store or chicken farm, or
Sure.
something to do things different till you learn what's out there.
I love that advice right there. And I've heard of my ex-wife many years ago. Her cousin and her boyfriend just traveled across Europe for a year.
Mhm.
And they took little jobs, serving tables, cooking, janitorial, whatever. And every couple months, they just go somewhere else to experience what was out there. Today, it may not be quite as safe to do that, or you may not want to do that because you don't know what the outcome is going to be or where you're going to end up. But back in the day when you could hitchhike and kind of discover yourself, I bet that was great. And I'm all about, boy, we got the military, you got the high school. I want 3 years from you doing service, either in the military or in the community somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's some validity to that. But I like the idea. Take a break, at least from academia for a while. Unless you're in tune for doing that.
Yeah.
But most of us aren't.
Let me interject another side to that too, because as we're having this conversation, I realize there's a part of being a travel advisor that has come up for people, and that is, I tell clients all the time, pick a way to do part of your travel experience that's different than what you normally do. I'm not an early morning person. I have discovered one of the best things I can do when I travel is take a dawn tour.
Ooh.
DAWN dawn tour. We did it. My wife and I did a few days in Rome before we went on to Croatia and other places.
Yeah.
We participated we basically signed up for and pre-arranged a dawn tour. We had a fellow with a car who picked us up about 6 o'clock in the morning. Among other things, very few people end up in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican when it's empty.
Wow, true.
And we were at a big plaza that we had been at the night before, where we had dinner, where there were probably 3,000 people, mostly tourists, there for music and food. We were there the next morning, and what we ran into was 3 Italians with 3 dogs and 3 tennis balls. They were out exercising their dogs in the morning in this plaza, which would be full of tourists that afternoon, because the only time they could get their dogs exercise was when there weren't a lot of people around. And I will tell you, I will take for the rest of my life the experience of just talking with those people out playing with their dogs, because I'm a dog lover and we had something in common as part of a dawn tour.
Oh my goodness. That's so exciting. About, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, I was in Bangkok, Thailand, with a friend of mine and our spouses. And what we did was we had a taxi take us to our hotel, and then we hired that taxi driver. The next day, he drove us a limo to take us to all the key points. You go to a hotel, you got all these flyers, you go here and there, like Hearst Castle where we live, or San Ynez, and we picked out these flyers, and it cost us $50. $50. That was a long time ago, of course. And he took us to the best places and where to go and what time to do those things. And even though we wanted to do this, like, maybe we want to go over here. And we got to ride elephants, which was pretty exciting. And get to the different zoos. And it's just a great experience down the River Kwai or the Bangkok market, and knew what time of day to get your goods off the river and where it wasn't so crowded. I agree with you. If you can find those unique experiences, a dawn tour, a private tour, somebody who knows the ins and outs, it's a better vacation.
I will share this with you, and I will tell you, make it very clear. I have no professional connection other than booking the people this company. I have nothing to do with this organization other than using them as their client. There's an organization called Tours by Locals. It is a cooperative owned by some former tour guides. I believe they're based in Vancouver, British Columbia. And it's an international network of individual tour guides. And you can go to their website and find out, gee, who does this kind of tour? Who does that kind of tour? And you're not dealing with a big busload of people. These are tours that maybe are for 2 people, maybe 8 or 10. They're different from every way. You're getting the guide's personal experience. I've used them a lot with clients. I've made clients happy with them because there are indeed small organizations like that that are doing the best they can to keep it person to person.
That makes a better vacation. I've been on a lot of cruises, and cruises aren't really a vacation. It's stressful sometimes.
Actually, I'd say you need to go on a smaller ship. Go on a 200 passenger ship, and you'll be a different experience.
You're right. I did a cruise a couple of years ago, and we're in the Bahamas or Caribbean or somewhere. They took us to a private island they owned, and literally all the food and drink was included. So you go to the bars and the shanties, like, wow, this is great. Most people don't get to really experience this part of a cruise, and we just had the best time in the world and can't wait for the next one, whatever that may be. Well, Fred, do you have any recommendations for our audience to live a happy, fulfilling life like you have these past 70 years?
Find people who are different than you are and talk to them all the time. But also remember the following phrase, and I didn't invent this. Somebody else invented it. I can't recall. The phrase is the word wait. Why am I talking?
Ooh.
Because if you think about that, I don't learn much from my own speaking, but I learned from talking to you, Joe. Yeah. And so therefore we need to listen to more people who are not like us and maybe seeing things different than we are.
Why am I talking? Your wife didn't teach you that one?
No, actually, some travel trainer somewhere talking about how to be a better travel agent taught me that one, and I can't remember where it was.
Wow, that's huge.
Stop talking long enough for your clients to talk to you about what they want.
That's almost what we teach in Toastmasters. The most important communication skill we can have is listening. Yeah. Listening. Wow, thank you so much. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Fred. You took us through the Navy, the submarines, the photography. You took us a little bit into politics and how you're instrumental in helping Grover City become Grover Beach. You took us a little bit about Croatia and travel and vacations. And wait, what the hell am I talking about? What is it? What am I?
What am I talking?
Why am I talking? That's exciting stuff. and the radio. So, how can people get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you today?
Can I give you a phone number?
Hey, wherever you want to put on here, and I'll make sure I get it on the 805 or email or whatever you want.
461-4150.
Perfect.
Okay. I answer my own phone. If it goes to voicemail, it's because I couldn't grab the phone fast enough.
If mine goes to voicemail, well, it could be a million excuses. But so maybe I need to have people call you if they're looking for me. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Joe's not here. He's in his office. Okay.
He's in his office, wherever that could be. And there's there used to be a local bar in Santa Maria close to where I live. It's called the Office.
Yes.
And nothing better than say, I'm at the office. I'm at the office. I'm at the office. For some reason, they're out of business right now. But boy, I wish I owned that place.
Their office is in their home now.
The office is in their home now. Not quite the same thing. Well, TV audience out there, I appreciate you joining me and Fred, and you're in the office with Joseph Skoda today. And please reach out. Let us know what you're looking for. Give us some of your ideas, your suggestions, and more importantly, why am I talking? Why am I talking? And what we can learn from one another. So I deeply appreciate all of you for joining us today, and continue to subscribe to our channel. And look up Fred. He's a character. Thank you a lot, Fred.
Thank you, Joe. It was a pleasure being with you today.
I salute you.
Thank you.
If you liked our show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or find us on any social media platform, Instagram, of course, Facebook. Like, subscribe, share. We appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts and join our team. Anyways, we appreciate you staying tuned week after week, day after day, because we continuously build up our network to bring to you what you're asking for. Have a great day.